Hello and welcome to our edition of Market Wraps. As usual, we have Mr. Pankaj Pandey with us, our research head at ICICI Direct. Hello, sir. Good evening. Welcome back.
Hi, good afternoon, Gaurav.
सर इतना इतना हल्का सा अपने गुड आफ्टरनून बोला है मार्केट्स को ऑल टाइम हाई लेके जाते हो 22,249 इज नहीं सॉरी 22,297 इज टुडेज हाई सो आपने कहा था कि वी मे सी ऑल टाइम हाई नेक्स्ट वीक व्हिच ऑलरेडी हैपेंड तो सर वील स्टार्ट विद निफ्टी ओनली व्हाट इज इन स्टोर फॉर निफ्टी ऑन द अपसाइड एंड वेयर डू यू सी द सपोर्ट कमिंग इन
Like all other global markets, I think our markets have also made a new high, Gaurav. And I think, I sort of highlighted last week, that the markets have been consolidating at higher levels, and breakout, if it happens from these levels, ideally should push or should take the Nifty to 22,700 levels. So that is the target we are maintaining for the month of March. I think supports can be at slightly better levels of 21,800, largely because we see some buoyancy in the BFSI as a sector. I mean, look at Nifty, 50% of the Nifty is really not doing the heavy lifting, which is the BFSI space along with IT. So some incremental positives in BFSI overall further can sort of lift the Nifty to these levels. So I think BFSI would be a key segment to sort of watch out for. Otherwise, market that looks good. We are not seeing heavy selling from FIs. Domestic inflows are quite robust. Earnings season which went by was quite okay, so there's no major disappointment there. So I think we are all set for higher levels of 22,700.
Sir, one thing I want to ask on this, and before we move on, BFSI, you have highlighted one thing on BFSI. IT is also one sector which can push Nifty to higher levels. And what we saw yesterday in Nvidia's prices, we saw Nvidia rising up by almost 15%, which lifted the Nasdaq and also Dow automatically. So, do you see anything from our IT stocks that they may start outperforming and which may take Nifty to higher levels, or you see they consolidating at this level?
No. So there can't be any comparison between that stock and Indian IT companies, because I think Nvidia is largely to do with the overall chip, especially for the AI. And AI has been the buzzword throughout globally. So obviously it is benefiting from that fact. Whereas Indian ITs typically do a lot of maintenance jobs, transformational deals, these times are less. So cannot be really compared. But what can sort of lift up the spirits of Indian IT? One is, I think the US economic outlook keeps getting better, and especially the banking, because banking there, or banking is one of the biggest technology spenders there. And you look at BFSI as a segment is the biggest vertical for any IT company which has got exposure to IT. So from that perspective, I think any positive, incremental positive in banking and financial services space in US, I think will be a key positive. And for that, I think interest rates are a big trigger. So I think for IT, interest rates declining in US is a trigger I would watch for, and it will have implications even for our BFSI also, because that provides some headroom to RBI to sort of cut rates as well.
Okay, point taken. So let's move on to sir this week's news. The biggest news came today. The company is, I think there's no guesses, Vodafone Idea. So I think there's some news from the company update has come in that they will be infusing some money or something. What is your take and the outlook of this company?
So no doubt, Vodafone Idea has been the talk of the town today, largely because of the fundraise. I think this has been sort of a long pending event we all have been sort of waiting for. So we need to see how much money they are able to raise. But broadly, when you sort of look at compared to their competition, so competition, which is your Jio has got 9+ crore subscribers for 5G, Airtel has got 7 crores. Now, Vodafone Idea has been sort of losing customers because they have not been able to sort of launch 5G, and largely because of the capital constraints. Now, one another aspect of the concern with Vodafone Idea was since this company was sitting in a debt of 2.15 lakh crores. So obviously there was a concern that if this business does not sort of do well, it will have implications. Sadly, good part is that banks do not have an exposure. It is largely the government-owned money. So the government dues are about 2.07 lakhs. So bulk of it is that. I think a standout beneficiary would be Indus Towers, because Indus Towers has been sort of receiving irregular payments previously in the past, though of late they've been getting sort of regular payments. So I think it will provide some lease of life to Indus Tower. But for Vodafone Idea, if they raise sufficient amount of money and are able to sort of launch 5G capex, I think that is when the probably turnaround can start. Still early days. A lot depends on what kind of quantum of money they can raise. But when you sort of look at the comment of Kumar Mangalam Birla, I think that points towards a very steady or a positive direction for the stock and for the company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have already seen the reaction in the stock. I think stock was up by 8% or something. So it's a good thing. Sir, there was one report on banking exposure. I think IDFC First Bank still has some about 3% here. And this was 2021 ka report. So these small banks still do they have some exposure, or that is also largely taken out?
I think that is largely taken out, if my understanding is correct, but I can probably check.
Okay. Sir, moving on to the next news, Hindalco subsidiary Novelis has applied for an IPO in the US markets. So what do you think would be the reaction in the Indian markets on this stock?
So one is, Hindalco is generally sort of looked very positively by most of the analysts, including us. A typical target price for the stock across communities about 600 rupees. Now, Novelis is a big contributor to their overall top line as well as bottom line, and the fortunes of Novelis are tied to what happens in the US. Now, when you sort of look at valuations of, Hindalco, it's about, I think, 1.2 lakh crores, closer to those numbers. And Novelis does about 4 million tons of volume and largely about $2.2 billion kind of an EBITDA. And typically 6 to 7 is what the multiples you give. So roughly valuation or the overall valuation from 1.2 lakh crores, about 70 to 80,000 crore comes for Novelis. Now, in case if in the IPO they get a better valuation, I think that is where the upside will further open up for Hindalco, because since this is an OFS, the money is going to come to Hindalco. So I think that could be a positive. But I think at this point in time, there's nothing to lose in Hindalco, given the fact that they will be getting incremental money. And also because I think in the previous con call, the company has announced a good amount of capex. So obviously they require money for the operation or for the expansion in US.
So, sir, any target price that you have in mind for this, or you'll come by next time?
We'll come by next time.
Results, I think, has performed really well. ABB, I think post result, I think its earning was announced on 20th. In just 3 days, we have seen a move of more than 1,000 points here. So what is your take? I'm sure you're definitely tracking this stock. So what is your view on ABB and its results?
So nothing to complain. ABB numbers, top line grew by some 14%, similar bottom line growth. Good part is that margins have expanded to nearly closer to 15%. I think 2 years back, they were making single digit margins. And from there on, there has been a sort of a complete turnaround. And obviously, largely on anticipated lines because of the kind of capex our economy is going through. I think nothing to sort of complain in terms of outlook, in terms of current near-term performance. I think the only challenge which we have been facing is that, the stock trades at about closer to, I think, 64, 65 times on calendar year 2025 earnings. So which is where it's very difficult to sort of put a value, because we haven't seen even with whatever numbers you look at, this is one stock, including Siemens, where you don't see sell-off. So I wish I could give a target price because the valuations are still stiff. But in case if we get a correction in the stock, I think one of the few good stocks or stable stocks, one can sort of lap it up. But yes, next 1 or 2 years, if your horizon is 1 or 2 years, probably I think could be challenging. But if you have a longish horizon, you can. But what we also understand is that nobody sells this stock because of the kind of concept or the kind of breadth of the spectrum it operates into. So they have any industrialization related across sectors. They operate in 23 sectors. I think so. This stock is a must-own stock, except for the valuation.
That smile says it all. Like, and I know how closely you track this space,
Uh,
L&T, ABB. So I know that smile is just too bright for this one. Okay, moving on, sir. There are some there's some approvals from the Defense Ministry for I think Navy side pay by the Indian Navy. I think 85 odd thousand crore approvals have been given by Defense Ministry. So defense is a sector that we've been tracking very closely. I know that HAL has been one of the most recommended stock last year. So what is your take on this news and the stocks that will benefit?
so Gaurav, no matter how much we try that, we'll talk less on the sector. I think the news flows keep pouring in the sector. So every week you have some or the other news flow. So I am sort of again forced to repeat a lot of things. But I think this week the Defense Ministry has given approval for some 84,500 kind of worth of projects. Typically, our sense is that they should get converted into orders in 9 to 12 months. And it's a very long list of stock, but largely for bulk of or majorities closer to 29,000 crores for reconnaissance purpose. And obviously, here you have Tata Advanced Systems plus Airbus, and obviously the components are going to be supplied by Bharat Electronics. So obviously that becomes the beneficiary. And since there is an approval for a refueler aircraft, so HAL obviously stands to gain. While BL electronic is used everywhere, so BL obviously takes a good pie. But along with that, I think Astra Microwave is something which we have given recently. So I think that is also a company which is going to be a beneficiary of this. And I think if you are talking about torpedoes or missiles, so I think BDL definitely sort of has a role to play. And last but not the least, Midhani is another stock which I think should sort of benefit. We've seen some movement in the stock. I think this is one stock in the defense pack which has been relatively laggard, but I think should catch up with the rest of the players. So I think it's a broad-based benefit across segments, and I think this is one sector which continues to sort of surprise us in terms of inflows, in terms of share prices. Uh, I don't have much to say actually from this.
BDL, no epic stock. HAL been saying Midhani was a Chandrayaan stock, so we have always been giving this here. Coming to next important news, sir. Moving from defense to space, I think there has been some government has given a license, like increased the FDI, what do you call, given approval to increase the FDI stake in the space sector. So what is your?
So I think, see, global defense industries, or sorry, space industries, about half of $500 billion. I think India is under 10. So it's a massive opportunity which is there, and we all know that India technologically can do a lot of this at a pretty fraction of a cost compared to global players. So if you're relying FDI, 100% FDI in subsystems or for satellite manufacturing up to 74%, I think it is a pretty good move for making the industry big. Initial thoughts, we'll have to see how sort of things evolve, but definitely it is positive for some of the companies like Data Patterns and Astra Microwave. So Astra Microwave has got a lot of legs, so they have entered into manufacturing of satellites and space electronics. Data Pattern is already there, so we used to track the stock, but like ABB, this is another good stock which always surprises on the price side. Very difficult to sort of justify. So that is another stock. But besides that, I think overall this step is going to sort of further deepen the sector. Like we've seen, defense space is another sector which can become big.
Sir, can Midhani also be a beneficiary of in space because manufacturing side by body alloys?
Absolutely. So Midani largely core is towards super alloys and titanium alloys, which are used in a lot of platforms, including space. So obviously it is a play.
Absolutely. Moving ahead, sir, news which came in, which can be a good news for one bank and a good news for bad news for another bank. So we had a rumor that there would be a resignation spree in the top management of Kotak Mahindra Bank and joining rumors of joining Federal Bank, but that has been put to rest. I think Kotak Bank came out with news. So what is your take on this overall development that has happened around Kotak Mahindra Bank?
So I think we have already seen the reaction in both the stocks already. But one obviously fear from in Kotak was that since they have got a new MD, so it was expected, or there was a fear that the existing incumbents probably might sort of move out. So I think this kind of a move by Kotak definitely sort of helps the company in restoring the overall growth trajectory of what they've been sort of delivering. But I think the challenge with Kotak or a lot of these names have always been that they did well when most of the segments were not doing so well. Now you have a lot of banks which are sort of doing quite well from a balance sheet perspective, from a growth perspective. So while it does address the concern, but doesn't mean that the Kotak is going to outperform. I doubt that because valuations are sort of okay at 2 times FY26 basis. So long term it is good, but near term it does help, but not that great positive that this stock is going to sort of be a chart buster.
Yeah, I think banking has its own has its own elephant to address, that is the deposit and all those stuff. So we'll see how that is taken into account. Moving on, sir, from one bank to another bank, Union Bank is planning to raise capital. So how do you see this development around this bank?
I think good part is that one needs to see the kind of responses, but I think whatever fundraising a lot of these PSUs have come up with, be it Bank of India or a number of other banks, I think the response has been pretty good. So obviously there is a change in perception what we see, and I think if a bank like Union Bank, if it sort of delivers ROAs in excess of 1% or inches towards 1%, then I think it can do well because it's trading at about 1 time. And in good times, what we have seen is that for PSU banks to sort of get re-rated if their growth trajectory actually improves, which is what it can happen with the raising of money, then I think you get further upside. But we don't. So I am tracking the news, but not really sort of fundamentally vouching for a recommendation on this stock.
Okay. From banking to a space which is the new, which has picked up recently in last 4 5 developments around the space. So, sir, what is your take on the entire space? Also also the top companies that you've been tracking here.
So I think good part is that we are seeing global growth sort of tapering off, and which is why the lithium battery prices have corrected. Now in India, if you look at penetration for two-wheelers is 5% of the overall volumes. For PV passenger vehicles at about 2%. It was said that whenever the battery prices come to say about $100, so that is when the J curve can happen. And I think our overall sense is that now, if you look at with the kind of correction, take the example of say Tata Nexon, which is the highest selling EV model. Now the diesel version is costing 16 lakhs, the petrol variant is costing 14 lakhs, and this EV version is costing 15 lakhs. So obviously it's cheaper than the diesel. And even if you compare with petrol, the cost for running for petrol is 8 rupees per liter, and for this thing EV it's about 1. So if somebody is driving 12,000 odd kilometers in a year, then you can easily even out in 1 year time frame in terms of cost. So I think it has become competitive in terms of EVs can become mainframe going forward, and not only PVs, we are seeing that in fact in two-wheelers also. So take the Ola for example. So entry level Ola model is now priced at 91,000, whereas the Honda Activa is costing about 93,000 rupees per unit. So now, the equations are changing fast. The way what we have seen penetration in three-wheelers reaching up to, I think, 40% plus. I think if these prices sustain, I'll not be surprised. You'll see a far more bigger adoption of two-wheelers and four-wheelers. The primary beneficiaries obviously will be the Tata Motors and Mahindra on the PV side because Maruti is still lagging behind. And I think on the two-wheelers, most of the players are still not there. So TVS is one, but we don't track. Otherwise, Ola could be a beneficiary, so which is not listed at this point.
Okay, and I think there are two, like one small player. What Wizard is one recently a Joy e-bike or something that are coming up, and Bajaj has announced something today on Yulu, like extra infusion. So there is development on this space for sure. Moving on, sir, this would be your this is a result reaction I want from you because this is a stock which I know you track very closely. It used to be known by the name of Mahindra CI earlier. Now it is known by the name of CIE Automotive. What is your take on the results produced by this company in this quarter?
So pretty boring set of numbers when you sort of look at from CI Automotive. So flattish top line, YOY, quarter on quarter. There was a 30-40 bips kind of a decline both in the India business as well as the European business. Now, the overall thing is that there's been some sort of delay in the ramp up in the Indian facilities, and as a result of that, the ramp up or the overall top line growth did not come up. And Europe, we all know, is largely not contributing, not only for this company, for a lot of sectors. But company is looking to sort of make this up. Good part is that balance sheet for this company already remains good. So which is why we are, despite the miss in the overall quarterly number this time, we still continue to remain bullish on the stock. The target price of 625. I think the free cash flow yield for this company is pretty good. So I think nothing to sort of complain from a balance sheet perspective.
And given the price action it has given since May 2022, the stock has almost doubled from that level because it was trading somewhere near 220, 240-ish level then. Now 400, I think, I don't remember the exact price. Last I saw was 487 something. That was the thing. Viewers, today we are slightly short on time, so I won't be able to come to questions. But one question I've seen, KG sir, view on Indian Hotels. So today we booked Indian Hotels as a gladiator pick. 600 rupees was the 598 was the target. We achieved it at 600. So we won't be able to give any fresh view because target was just achieved today. So sir, we'll move quickly to your hidden gem section. Which sector first and which stock?
So chemical is a beaten down sector, but we are seeing some sort of a green shoots. So I think Sudarshan Chemical is what I would want to recommend with a target price of 705. Now, this company is one of the biggest pigment players with a market share of 35%. So pigment is largely used in the paint industry, plus in the plastics, plus cosmetics and inks. Now, last 2-3 years, the domestic business was doing fine in terms of overall growth. The volatility in the raw material prices created challenges on the margin front. And then Europe and US business was struggling and is sort of still struggling. So those businesses, the expectation is that things are going to sort of improve. On the US, now restocking is sort of happening. So that's a sort of a positive sign. And as a result, they've launched 2 new products. Domestically, they've launched 4 products. And I think Europe also, overall things are expected to sort of get better over a period of time. So from that perspective, I think things are on the mend for this company. So this company used to make margins of 17-18 odd percent in a normal time. Currently, the margins are at about 12%. I think the overall sense is that the management will take the margins to about 16 odd percent going forward, with obviously a scope to sort of improve it further. So that should sort of lead to a good turnaround in the top line. Top line may not be so much, but a good growth in the bottom line because margin profile is expected to improve from 11% to nearly 16% in FY26. And your bottom line ideally should sort of see a quantum jump from FY23 levels. So I think overall sense is that this company should witness a turnaround in the fortunes in the next subsequent quarters. And this has been a good company historically. So we feel that now it's a time to sort of pick this up.
So just one follow-up question to you on this. Since 2021, pharma chemical sector has been one of the heaviest beaten down counters. Do you see this can be a surprise, like a joker in the pack for this financial year?
So last week also I highlighted that some of the companies like CPI Industries came up with good set of numbers. I think selectively we are seeing some green shoots for this company, because even for this company, US as a business was quite sort of beaten down because there was a restocking happening. Now on the discretionary side, they are talking of restocking sort of happening. So I think which is a very positive sign. And I think this raw material led volatility, which had sort of come into the margins, I think is sort of normalizing. So I think things are going to come back normal, because half of their top line is driven by the paint industry. So paint industry, if you look at, is talking of a double-digit growth. I mean, be it driven by Grasim or be it driven by Asian Paints, or a combination. So from that perspective, I think things are looking to improve for here on. So worst is already there in the prices.
I think the good thing is that when the prices are beaten down in the next small green shoot, the risk of losing money is very low here. So the target price is 705 here, viewers. Current price is around 600. So that is our hidden gem, that is Sudarshan Chemicals. Thank you so much, sir, as usual, for joining us every Friday. Hope to see you again next time with a very 50% type upside wala stock ke saath.
I wish the market is not leaving too many opportunities.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to never miss an update from ICICI Direct.